David's Song of Lament. Then David uttered this lamentation over Saul and over Jonathan his son. And he told them to teach the children of Judah, indeed it is written in the book of the righteous. Set up a monument, Israel, over the dead on the high places of are slain. How the mighty have fallen. Do not tell it in Gath. Do not proclaim it in the streets of Ashkelon. Lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice. Lest the daughters of the uncircumcised exult. You mountains of Gilboa. Let no dew, no rain fall upon you, nor the fields of the first fruit. For in that place, the shield of the mighty was dishonored. The shield of Saul was not anointed with olive oil. From the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty. The bow of Jonathan did not return in Vn. Nor in Vn was the sword of Saul returned. Saul and Jonathan, beloved and handsome, were not separated entirely. So beautiful in their life, that in their death, they were not separated entirely. Swifter than the eagles and more powerful than lions. O daughters of Israel, weep over Saul. Clothing you in the scarlet linens of our world. Bringing to you the golden apparel. How the mighty have fallen. O Jonathan, dying on your high places. I am grieved for you, my brother Jonathan. You were most pleasant to me. Your love for me was to be admired. Surpassing the love of women. How the mighty have fallen. And the warriors of war perish. David made king of Judah. It happened after this that David inquired of the Lord, saying, Shall I go up to one of the cities of Judah? And the Lord told him, Go up. David asked, Where shall I go up? And he said, To Hebron. So David went up to Hebron. He went with his 2 wives, Ahinoam the Jezreelite woman and Abigail the widow of Nabal the Carmelite. The men went up with him, every man with his household, and they dwelt in the cities of Hebron. Then the men of Judah came, and there they anointed David king over the house of Judah. And they told David, saying, The men of Jabesh Gilead buried Saul. So David sent messengers to the rulers of Jabesh Gilead and said to them, You are blessed of the Lord, for you have shown this mercy to your Lord, upon Saul, the Lord's anointed, and you have buried him and his son Jonathan. And now may the Lord work with you in mercy and truth. Indeed, I will repay you for this kindness since you made this happen. Now therefore, let your hands be strengthened and be valiant, for your master Saul is dead. In addition, the house of Judah anointed me king over them. Ishbosheth made king of Israel. But Abner the son of Ner, commander of Saul's army, took Ishbosheth the son of Saul and brought him from the camp to Mahanaim. He made him king over Gilead, over the Ashurites, over Jezreel, over Ephraim, over Benjamin, and over all Israel. Ishbosheth the son of Saul was 40 years old when he began to reign over Israel, and he reigned for 2 years. But he did not reign over the house of Judah, who followed David. The days David reigned in Hebron as king over the house of Judah were 7 years and 6 months. War between Israel and Judah. Now Abner the son of Ner and the servants of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, went out from Mahanaim to Gibeon. And Joab the son of Zeruiah and the servants of David went out from Hebron to meet them at the well of Gibeon. The 2 groups sat down, one on one side of the well and the other on the other side of the well. Abner said to Joab, Let the young men stand up and duel before us. Joab said, Arise. 12 young men of Benjamin, followers of Ishbosheth the son of Saul, and 12 of the servants of David arose to duel. By the hand, each of them grasped the head of his opponent, and by the hand, his sword went into the side of his opponent. They fell at the same moment. Thereafter, they called the name of that place the Well of Treachery, which is in Gibeon. The battle that day was very fierce, and Abner and the men of Israel were beaten before the servants of David. The 3 sons of Zeruiah were there, Job, Abishai and Asahel. Asahel was as fleet of foot as a wild gazelle. Asahel pursued Abner, and not to deviate from his purpose, he turned neither to the right hand nor to the left. Then Abner looked behind him and said, "Are you Asahel?" He answered, "I am." And Abner said to him, "Turn aside to your right hand or to your left, and lay hold on one of the young men and take his armor for yourself." But Asahel would not turn aside from following him. So Abner said again to Asahel, "Stay away from me lest I strike you to the ground. How then could I lift up my face to Job? Return to where you came. Return to Job your brother." However, he refused to turn aside. Therefore Abner smote him in the loins with the end of his spear, and the shaft of the spear came out of his back. There he fell and there he died. And it happened that everyone who came to the place where Asahel fell down and died stood in silence. Job and Abishai also pursued Abner. The sun was going down when they came to the hill of Ammah, which is east of Jah, on the road through the desert of Gibeon. Here the sons of Benjamin gathered behind Abner and joined to meet in battle. They took their position on top of a hill. Abner called to Job and said, "Shall the sword devour until the victory is won? Do you truly not know that in the end it will be bitter? How long until you tell the people to turn back from pursuing their brethren?" And Job said, "As the Lord lives, if you did not talk in the morning, perhaps then each person should not be pursuing his brother afterward." So Job blew a trumpet, and all the people stood back and did not pursue Israel, nor did they fight any more. Then Abner and his men went away toward the west all that night, crossed the Jordan, and went all morning and came to the camp. And Job returned from pursuing Abner. And when he gathered all the people, 19 servants of David and Asahel were missing. But the servants of David smote 360 of the sons of Benjamin, the men of Abner. Then they took up Asahel and buried him in his father's tomb in Bethlehem. And Job and his men traveled with him throughout the night and came to Hebron at daybreak. Now there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. But the house of David grew continually stronger and the house of Saul grew steadily weaker. Notes from the previous page. 1:13-16 David turns upon the messenger, rebukes him for killing the Lord's anointed, and orders his execution. 1:17-27 The lamentation, verses 19-27, lauds both Saul and Jonathan. 2:1-3 David seems able to inquire directly of the Lord, as no mention is made of the ephod or other means of discernment, such as Urim and Thummim. The Lord instructs David to go to Hebron. 2:4 David is anointed by the elders of Judah as their king in Hebron. They also report Saul's burial. 2:5-7 David commends the burial of Saul as something right, inasmuch as he, too, was the Lord's anointed. He uses this as the opportunity to invite the people of Jabesh Gilead to accept his kingship over Judah. 2:8-10 However, a rival kingdom is established by Abner, Saul's commander-in-chief. Ishbosheth, Saul's son, reigns 2 years over Israel, but not over Judah. 2:11 David's reign over Judah is 7.5 years. 2:12-32 A contest is staged between 12 Benjamites loyal to Abner and Ishbosheth, and 12 men loyal to David, led by Joab. This results in a blood feud.